I inherited 1,500 acres of pristine woodland and farmland from my grandfather, a place our family had owned for over a century. It had rolling hills, 2 lakes, and a line of oak trees that marked the property's southern border. My granddad always said, "Land is power, son. Never sell it unless you can't eat otherwise." So when I moved back home from working abroad, I was stunned to find a massive gated community built right in the middle of it. Mansions, cul-de-sacs, tennis courts, even a golf course. Everywhere I looked, the once wild land was now covered in concrete and trimmed hedges. And the kicker, they had formed an HOA, the Silver Pines Community Association. When I went to the county records office to see what had happened, I found something that made my jaw drop. According to public records, my land had been sold 10 years ago to a developer named Fairway Holdings LLC, except I had never sold a single acre. The discovery, a forged signature, and a web of lies. I immediately hired a real estate attorney and began digging. What we discovered was straight-up fraud. The sale was based on forged documents. Someone had copied my late father's signature from old records and notarized it using a fake stamp. That's how the developer acquired the land, and then sold it off in parcels to dozens of homeowners, who later formed the HOA. The worst part, the county clerk's office had overlooked the inconsistencies because the paperwork appeared legitimate. My lawyer looked me dead in the eye and said, "They built that entire neighborhood on stolen land. Legally, you still own it all." It took months to confirm, but every title transfer stemming from that fake deed was invalid, meaning every house, yard, and street technically stood on my property. At first, I felt a mix of rage and disbelief. Then, I decided to play it smart. The HOA is arrogance. "You can't be here, sir." One morning, I drove into the neighborhood, parked by the fountain, and started taking photos for evidence. Within minutes, a group of people in polo shirts approached me. Leading them was a woman who looked like she'd trademarked the word Karen. "Excuse me, sir," she said sharply. "This is private property. You can't take pictures here." It introduced myself calmly. "Actually, this is my property. Every inch of it." She laughed. "Oh, sure. And I'm the Queen of England now. If you don't leave, we'll call the sheriff." I smiled. "Please do." When the sheriff arrived, he ran my ID, checked the parcel number I gave him, and frowned. Then he said to the HOA board, Folks, technically he's right. This land's ownership looks complicated." Karen's jaw dropped. She snapped, "That's impossible. We paid good money for our homes." I just shrugged. "Maybe you should have checked who you were buying from." They still didn't take me seriously. The HOA president, some smug ex-banker named Douglas, sent me a cease and desist letter claiming I was harassing homeowners. That was the moment I decided they'd learn the hard way what legal ownership really meant. The lawsuit, the courtroom showdown. My attorney filed a quiet title action, which is a legal way to clarify ownership when deeds are disputed. The HOA counters sued, insisting the sales were legitimate, and I had no right to the property. The case drew attention. Local news ran headlines like, "Man claims entire subdivision built on his land." For 2 years, the legal battle dragged on. The HOA hired expensive lawyers, tried to stall, even forged new evidence claiming I'd sold partial rights, but our evidence was airtight. Expert witnesses confirmed the original deed was forged. When the judge finally ruled, his verdict echoed through the courtroom. The court finds that the original sale was fraudulent. Ownership of the entire 1,500-acre parcel reverts to Mr. Jameson. The HOA representatives went pale. Some homeowners started crying. Karen screamed at me outside the courthouse, "You are ruining our lives." I calmly replied, "You ruined mine when you built over my family's legacy." But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The twist. So, I sold their homes legally. You see, I didn't want to kick families out right away. I gave them a choice. Every homeowner received a letter. Option A, buy the land your home sits on at fair market value, about $400,000 each. Option B, vacate within 90 days. Most refused, calling it extortion. The HOA president even held a meeting to rally the community. They decided to fight me again in court. Bad move. Their refusal meant they were now trespassing. So I filed eviction notices, not for each homeowner but for every property lot. Since the land was legally mine and their houses were on it, they were occupying without a valid lease. A few months later, something incredible happened. An investment group approached me interested in the area. They offered to buy the land and the structures sitting on it as is. Legally, the houses were considered fixtures attached to my property. So, under state law, when I sold the land, the homes went with it. I signed the deal. The buyers immediately served notice to the entire HOA community. They had 30 days to vacate. The fallout. Panic in Silver Pines chaos erupted. The HOA's Facebook page exploded with outrage. Homeowners were furious, not at the fraudsters who sold them fake deeds, but at me. They claimed I was destroying their community. The sheriff's office had to patrol the neighborhood daily as residents protested and blocked my trucks. Karen even chained herself to the community gate, screaming, "He can't do this, this is our home." But legally, I could. Within 60 days, the entire subdivision was cleared out. The new investors demolished the clubhouse and golf course first, planning to convert the area into a wildlife preserve and resort. When the dust settled, the HOA no longer existed. The same people who had once fined others for mailbox paint now found themselves homeless because of their own arrogance. The epilogue. Restoring the land and my legacy once the deal closed. I stood on the hill overlooking the property, the same hill where my grandfather once watched deer roam free. The bulldozers had cleared the fake luxury homes, and for the first time in decades, the land looked peaceful again. The investors paid me a hefty sum, enough to rebuild my family farmhouse, set up a nature reserve, and fund a scholarship, in my grandfather's name, for agricultural students. One afternoon, I ran into the former HOA president at a diner in town. He looked defeated, sipping coffee with trembling hands. "You destroyed us," he muttered. I smiled slightly. "No, Douglas, you destroyed yourselves when you thought you could own what wasn't yours." He had no reply. The lesson: don't mess with what you don't own. Months later, a reporter interviewed me for a feature titled, "The Man Who Sold the HOA's Homes." She asked if I regretted it. I thought for a moment and said, "I don't take joy in people losing homes, but they built those homes on theft and refused every chance to make it right. Sometimes justice looks harsh because people ignore every softer option." She smiled, then asked, "So what's next for you?" "Rebuilding," I said the right way. Epilogue. The return of Silver Pines. 2 years later, the land had transformed into Silver Pines' nature preserve dedicated to my grandfather. The lake sparkled again. Trails wounded through the forests and families came to picnic and fish. A small plaque at the entrance read, "In memory of William Jameson, who taught us that land can be borrowed but never stolen." Every so often I'd see a few of the old HOA members drive by, looking through the gates at what used to be their kingdom. Now it was open to everyone, free, peaceful, and alive. It couldn't find anyone here. They couldn't control the rules. They couldn't own it because it was never theirs to begin with. Moral of the story: never underestimate the person whose name is still on the deed. Some people play revenge with anger. Others play it with lawyers and paperwork. And in the end, justice isn't always loud. It's perfectly legal.